Welcome back to the Bama Tailgate Show. Alabama and Oklahoma coming up. Big game for both of these teams, and we're going to talk with one of the best in the business as far as SEC football is concerned, Chris Lowe. But let me remind you guys that this segment and our show is presented by visitsevierville.com. Right now, Sevierville Winterfest is underway. The Smoky Mountain Winterfest began on November 7th, and it continues through February 16th of next year. There's millions of lights along the Parkway in Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, and Gatlinburg. Yes, also get to enjoy Winterfest attractions like Shadrick's Christmas Wonderland, an all-LED drive-through light show, and more. There are great events throughout Sevierville, including Harvest Fest and Winterfest. For more information, check them out. Visit Sevierville.com. And not only that, there's a fish that talks, Chris.
When you head to the Smoky Mountains, it's only natural to visit Sevierville. Say it with me now. It ain't that hard. Sevierville. Give me some fin. Your Smokies start here.
I love that. For those of you that are listening on radio, it's a talking bass. Anyway, Chris Lowe from On3 hanging out with us as always. Chris, let's get right into it. Bama against Oklahoma. The Tide didn't play maybe their best game against LSU, but I thought that the game that they played was a winning style of football. Your thoughts on the 20-9 win over the Tigers, and how do you feel about Alabama going into this game?
You saw a familiar theme. It was the thing that my sense of that game is the defense, once again, Mick, certainly in the second half and really throughout the game, dictated the flow. And it's funny, football is such a, you think back to August to where we are now and how much players change and how much one side of the ball may change. And a lot of that's dictated, as you know, by injuries, by younger guys growing up, by staffs having the ability to develop players. But when I look at Alabama's growth from where they were in that first game against FSU to where they are now, Ty Simpson's been phenomenal. But I think it's the defense that has been the constant, has gotten better. They're getting other players than just the usual suspects that are making contributions, and they're really holding teams down. And I don't think that Ryan Grubb or Ty Simpson or Kalen DeBoer are going into games now, Mick, thinking they got to score 35 or 38 or 40 points to win. The defense has been good enough and has shut down people and really played the what I would call the possession game, field position game, and been able to force some key turnovers that other teams are the ones that are sort of that responsibility, really more the pressure to score big to beat Alabama. But I think that's the thing, is coming out of that game, it's been that way now for a while, seemingly with Alabama, is that their defense has been good enough and has sort of inserted their will against whoever they played. And I think that's when you get to this part of the season, guys are banged up. You're going to get into some tough games. I mean, you look at Indiana and Penn State last week. You're always going to play in those games now that maybe not everybody saw coming against a team that you're better than, or a team that's had a rough season. Man, November, to me, Mick, November is the hardest month to win.
Right.
It just is. And you see these matchups, and there'll be more this weekend. There'll be more the next couple of weekends where you say, this team's going to kill this team. It just never quite works out that way in November. And I think, again, going back to your original point, Alabama, did they play their A game? No, but they did what they needed to do. And I take comfort, if you're looking at it through the Alabama lens, I take comfort that your defense continues to show up and play championship-style football.
Well, against Oklahoma, they're going to have to play even better, right? The offensive line is going to have to block Oklahoma's defensive line. That's one of the best in the country. Alabama has been so good when it comes to limiting penalties and not turning the football over, right? But, at the same time, Oklahoma's going to give them a lot of pressure, you would assume. I mean, that's kind of part of what they do. And when you go into this matchup, if you're Alabama, you know that Ty Simpson is going to be under distress if they don't run the ball. And a lot of people that watch our show are concerned about the run game for Alabama, which, again, last week did not amass more than 100 yards.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're right. You're going to see from Brent Venables, you're going to see pressures. You're going to see them dial up stuff you hadn't seen all year. Venables, going back to his Clemson days, has been as good as anybody at getting, whatever you call it, stealing signals, getting signals, knowing what teams' tendencies are. Again, you can phrase that however you want to phrase it. You heard coaches for the last several years say that, but they're also really good and really creative, Mick, in the way they get pressure and bring pressure and where they bring it from. And absolutely, if they're going to do everything they can, everything to make Alabama one-dimensional. They'd love to see Ty Simpson throwing the football 40 times, which obviously Alabama doesn't want to do that, and completely take that running game away. And that's where, you start talking about getting creative, and Ryan Grubb's been a master this year at dialing up plays in key situations, but they've got to find a way, because if you look at a big picture, and I think down deep, all coaches do, you got to find a way to start running the football a little bit. Winning this game obviously is what the goal is. That's the focus. But if the Tigers are going to make a deep run to playoff, they can't count on Ty Simpson to make every play and to beat teams. I hate to use this analogy, but with sort of one arm behind their back, throwing the football all the time. They've got to be able to run it short yardage. They've got to be able to run it some on their side of the field, coming off the goal line. And certainly they got to be able to run it, on downs where the other team knows you're going to run it or probably going to run it. You got to get those tough 2, 3, 4 yards.
One of those games for Alabama that you look at and you say, hey, if you get by this one, you feel really good about your chances to make the college football playoff, even with the Iron Bowl pending, looking ahead to, Auburn. Do you feel like if Bama's able to take care of business in this matchup that they're going to make the college football playoff, whether they win or lose in Lee County?
Well, let's see. Let's do the math. If they beat Oklahoma, and even if let's say they were to lose to Auburn, that's just one conference loss. So that almost assuredly, with the win over Georgia, would get them at least into the SEC playoffs. So I think at that point, you got a chance to play one game and you're automatically in. If you were to lose 3, maybe a little dicier. And then maybe we really do make that test about can a 3-loss team get in, because when you look at Bama's resume and all the ranked teams they've beaten, all the teams that are in the committee's rankings, they would state to me as strong a claim as anybody to get in. The thing that everyone's going to have a hard time getting out of their brain is that loss to FSU. And that looks worse every week. But I still think the wins would and should count more than the loss. Here's what I would say. And, I'm not a doomsday kind of guy. I'm not a gloomy, doomy kind of guy. That's not my stick. But to me, Auburn poses, and I told you this before we did the show today, if I'm a Bama fan, I'm more scared of that Auburn game than I am Oklahoma for a couple reasons. You're playing at home. Bama's been lights out at Bryant-Denny. They really have. Oklahoma, just to me, won't be able to score enough points. They've not been the same football team since Mateer hurt his thumb. He hasn't been the same player since he hurt his thumb. His ability to run the football is not what it was. They just haven't played a lot. To me, they just haven't been very explosive on offense. They had the one big play against Tennessee. So I just don't think they score enough in that environment. And I think Bama was able to turn them over and win that game. Auburn, to me, is scary for a couple of reasons. I think when you see an interim coach walk in and re-energize the team the way Durkin did in that Vandy game. Now, granted, they lost, but they finally threw the football to Cam Coleman. They finally threw the football to Singleton. And those are the type plays and those are the type players, even when you're playing the kind of defense that Bama is, that scare you. Those one-on-one type matchups. And this game is weird. I mean, you go back a long way, decades. I do too with the Iron Bowl. Auburn on the Plains should have won the last 2 games with inferior football teams, inferior talent than they have right now. This is not, as crazy as it sounds, this is probably the most talented football team Auburn has had in several years on both sides of the ball, especially if their game plan offensively is similar to what it was against Vandy, and I have no reason to believe that it won't be, but they're good on defense. They played well on defense really all year long. They've kept them in games. So that's the game you asked me, do I think Bama's in if they win against Oklahoma? And I do think they'll win against Oklahoma.
Right.
That Auburn game, to me, it just, again, that last game of the season, as I said a minute ago, in November, it gets harder and harder to win.
Yeah.
And Auburn's been right there on the cusp the last 2 times they played. I was at both games. I was the Miracle, fourth and Miracle. I was at the game 2 years before that where Bryce let him down the field, 90 yards?
We call it Gravedigger.
20 seconds, 4 overtimes.
Yeah, the 4 overtime game was Bryce's drive,
It's just hard to win. And I do think, though, the thing that Bama has going for more than anything else is this team is played with so much edge and so much resiliency and so much purpose. I think that's the word. You start talking about good football teams. They play with the kind of purpose since that FSU game that you got to play with if you're going to win. And I keep saying it, Mick, is I don't know that you'd ever get this out of Kalen DeBoer. I don't know if you ever get it out of the leaders on that team, a Ty Simpson or a Tim Keenan. But I'm not so sure that loss to FSU was the best thing to happen to this team.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that.
I don't think they go into Georgia and win if they sort of cruise through and somehow skate by FSU in that first game. Well, they got embarrassed, and I think that was really sort of the wake-up call, whatever analogy or cliche you want to use, because this has been a different football team, and I think the way Kalen and that staff has coached them and approached it has been different.
Guys, I want to remind you that we are going to be at Innisfree Friday, November 14th, 1 o'clock for the Alabama-Oklahoma game. We got some swag to give away. We're debuting these right here, these trucker hats, the new Bama Tailgate Show trucker hat. We'll have some of these to give away, Yingling Lager swag as well, and we're going to have a great time, even a Leroy Jordan Daniel Moore print. You can't be there? Hit that QR code, AveD. And we'll be giving away these on there as well. So get in the comments section and also be part of AveD. And it's free. We give away cash prizes weekly. Also get to pick games. It's pretty fun. And it's our our Web3 home for the Bama Tailgate Show. All right. So are you concerned at all about the run game, though? Because I think that's where a lot of Alabama fans kind of feel like there is a concern. Now, I'm going to tell you my feelings. I think that this is a different style offense. I think they do a lot of other stuff that almost works like runs, like kind of like a Mike Leach type thing, where we're going to throw to the perimeters and we're going to try to have like mismatches over there. And, we're going to do some jet sweeps and stuff like that. And almost like the run straight ahead, there's not a lot there with it, but it's almost like just to keep you honest, to set up other stuff. Now, I think we would like to see the offensive line block better. Shank says it's a mentality that they've just got to get in the right place mentally, get to blocking. I agree with that. But then Mike Johnson, who's 2-time All-Americans, like, hey, they had a Joe Moore award-winning offensive line, and they were one of the, I think like 58th in the nation running the ball at Washington, and they lost in the national championship game. So it's a different style of offense. Or is Bama in trouble with the run game?
Well, you're right. First of all, they do things in the pass game, Mick, that are sort of the equivalent of a run. And you go back to when Grubb and Kalen were together in Washington, they did the same thing. But they still could run the football. I agree with what Mike said. And Mike would know. Mike was on terrific offensive lines at Alabama. That, the type of offenses that would bloody your nose and could bloody your nose. They might not do it every game, but when they needed to do it, and this to me is the key here. When they needed to bloody your nose, they did. And I still think there are going to be games. I know there will be games that Alabama plays if they're going to make a deep run in the playoff. And I have no reason to think that this team won't make a deep run in the playoff. But there are going to be situations, 3rd and short, 4th and short. Maybe you're trying to finish a football game. You're leading by 3 or 4, and you're trying to finish it. Or you get pinned deep. The field position flips and you're on your own 11 or you're on 12 and you got to run the football out of there, or you just want to shorten a football game by running it. All those things in those grinded out type of games, or just even situationally when you're playing, let's say in Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia. I go back to the Georgia game, Mick, and even though Bama has not run the ball great this year, go back to the end of that game. What sticks out to you about the end of that game? They got the ball back and they ran the football. They kept it for several minutes. Jam Miller was a big part of that. and kept it away from Georgia, which to me was one of the keys to winning that football game. And I think when you play the best teams on your schedule, and in the playoffs certainly you're going to, that's when your run game shows up the most. So you asked me if I'm concerned. Yeah, I mean, they've got to be able to run it better in those key situations. And we, at least if you're Alabama, you did that against Georgia when you had to late in the game. And I'm sure fans want to see more of that. And Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grove want to see more of that throughout the game.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and I think that this team's only going to get better. I think what we're missing is Bama knows how to win, just like Auburn doesn't know how to win.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I don't think Auburn's that, like, I saw the SEC power rankings and I saw Auburn down at the bottom just ahead of Arkansas. And I thought, you know, they're better than some of those other teams. They just don't know how to win. That is the most important thing that you do as a football team. Know how to win games. You know, so I've been adamant on the channel all week that, you know, I'm not that concerned about figuring out more running yards. I just want to figure out how to win the next game because, you know, I can remember Coach Saban talking about, you know, when the team was playing well, but he didn't like the way that they did certain things and he would get on the team. This team's not having any, this team is so disciplined that they are not committing penalties and they're not turning the ball over. They're turning over the opposition. Those are the two key stats to win games, right? And then on top of that, they can move the ball down the field with the pass. Is it perfect? No. Have they played their best game? No. And this is another huge test against Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. But I'm not that concerned. I'm more concerned about them just going out and doing the same things they've been doing.
Yeah, and they've done that. I mean, I was going to say, Mick, you're a baseball guy.
Yeah.
The best pitchers are those guys who don't have their best stuff on one day, but they're good enough and they're savvy enough, crafty enough, experienced enough to go out and get people out when they don't have their quote unquote fastball, or maybe their slider is not diving the way it should, or their breaking ball is not moving the way you typically want your breaking ball to win. But you go back to the greatest pitchers to ever do it, and that's what they did time and time again. You know, when a pitcher's got his best stuff, well, then yeah, he's hard to hit. But the great ones get people out when they don't. And I think that's what you're talking about, Alabama. Alabama now has won a couple games here back to back, well, with a week in between, where they weren't at their best. I think we all would agree they weren't at their best against South Carolina. You sort of saw that coming. That was their fifth game in a row, fifth SEC game on the road against a team that was pretty desperate in a hard place to win, and they made every play they needed to down the stretch to win. Some great decisions by the coaching staff, great play call. You get a week off, you play an LSU team, you know, with an interim coach. Once again, that's tricky. And your defense is outstanding, is dominant. And LSU's so anemic offensively. You want to say they're anemic, or you want to say your defense helped make them anemic? They bench their starter at quarterback. So I think that's what you're saying, and I agree. Bama has been that type of team. They played great when they needed to. They played well on defense. They made stops on defense when they needed to. They've made play calls, i.e. the South Carolina game. A lot of teams lose that game.
Right.
A lot of teams would have lost that game. To get down, the place is going crazy. They can taste it. Sellers plays his best game of the year, or one of his best games of the year against you, and Bama, found a way to win. So those are traits of a championship team, that you play well, you win. Even when you don't play well, you find ways to win. I think now you're at a point, Mick, though, where you got to start playing your best football.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you that's what Kalen DeBoer is telling his team, that as we finish this thing out, let's start Saturday. Let's play our best game on Saturday, and really motor in to that the last game and on into the SEC championship, because now is when you start trying to get by with just making a few plays late or making a key stop or a big play on third down to win against some of the teams you're going to play in the playoff. That's when you get burned. So I think they've been able to navigate some of those waters that you just talked about. Now you got to start playing your best football. And again, I've got no reason to think this team won't. They've got everything it takes. They've got to run it better. Got a lot of experience on defense. And I think you got two coordinators. And I don't think this is talked about enough. Two coordinators who have a lot of experience. One who's been a head coach. Kane Womack has run his own program. And another, Ryan Grubb, who has coached in the NFL, albeit it was a short stay. But he and Kalen DeBoer are like left hand, right hand. They think alike. The way they coordinate game plans, offenses to get ready for the week. So you got a lot of really good experience there, not only with your coordinators but on your staff. And I think you've seen that come through this year.
Yeah, great relationship, guys. Check out Bod Coach and use our promo code Bama. And I'll tell you about this, Chris. Bod Coach is like my personal trainer. It's my own Scott Cochran type of guy. Except it's AI, and it comes through my phone. It's like a text. Hey, Mick, what do you want to do today? Did you work out? You know what? I'm going to tell Bod Coach today that I'm going to walk because I had a back injury from a kickball game. I'm feeling better. Bod Coach, and like you, Chris, when we're on the road, I go to the gym. I look in and say, hey, I got dumbbells. I got this weight. I want to work this muscle group. And then immediately it'll send me a workout plan that is set for a certain time, the amount of time I have. And it's fantastic. It keeps track of all your workouts, and I love it. And I think you guys will. So check it out. It's not that expensive. bod.coach/Bama. All right. SEC speaking. I feel like Ole Miss is in perfect position to sneak into the college football playoff. You got another huge matchup, which is Texas at Georgia. Both teams coming off of really impressive wins. And then Texas has to play Texas A&M. So the schedule that they got last year isn't the schedule that they got this year. It's a much tougher schedule for Texas. So when you look at, like, first off, the Georgia and Texas game, and then Ole Miss, and then obviously Texas A&M, how do you see things kind of filing out going into the final weeks of the season?
Texas has to be kicking themselves losing that game at Florida. That's a bad loss. It's one that's maybe going to keep them out of the playoff. Texas has the best. Let's say it this way: they've got the best resume building schedule the rest of the way. It's also the hardest. You got to play at Georgia this weekend. Then the last weekend, their Thanksgiving weekend, they play at home against Texas A&M. So they play two of the top 4 teams in the committee's rankings down the stretch. Now, there's 2 ways to look at that. Number one, I got to think if you win both those games, you're in, no questions asked. No way Texas is left out winning 2 games against top 4 teams the last 3 weeks of the season. I don't care if they get to the SEC championship game or not, which I don't think they would. But they're in. You know, that's too many good wins late. They get in. Now, if they lose one of those 2, which I guess they're not favored this week. I'm not sure what the line will be against A&M. I got to think if they're not favored, they'll be a couple-point underdog at home. But if they lose one of those, they're out. They're not getting in with 3 losses, not with that loss to Florida. So that's the way I look at that. And you look at the other 2-loss teams, Oklahoma. Oklahoma's sort of the same way. They got a hard schedule. Obviously, they got to play at Bama, but they got to beat Bama. They beat Bama and went out, then they got a pretty decent chance to get in. Especially if Texas loses one. The fascinating thing would be if Texas wins out and Oklahoma wins out. They both have 2 losses, but Texas would have beaten Oklahoma head-to-hand, and Texas would have had 2 better wins that last month of the season. The other fascinating, I think the most fascinating scenario, Mick, is Vandy. Vandy was 14th Tuesday in the latest rankings. But teams ahead of them, Texas and Oklahoma, both have really difficult games.
Right.
Vandy, as crazy as it sounds, they need to hope like crazy Tennessee wins out and beats Florida, which they haven't done in Gainesville since Ronald Reagan was in office.
Wow.
Is
that true?
2003. It's been a long time. You were probably in high school in 2003.
Yeah. Who was that? Clinton?
I don't know. It's been a long time. But my point is, Vandy needs Tennessee to be a top 20 team in the committee's rankings when they go to Knoxville that last weekend. They need they need a quality win like that late to be, that would make them 10-2. They're going to be Kentucky still. Kentucky, I don't think is, to Mark Stoops' credit, hasn't thrown in the towel.
Right.
But they got to win that game. And then they want Tennessee to be ranked 20th or somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
And beat them. And then if they do that, and Oklahoma loses, say to Bama, Texas loses one more, I think Vandy's right on the cusp then of making the playoff.
Yeah.
Certainly if they probably need the ACC just to get one team in, which means they probably would need Georgia Tech to go in and win out and Miami not get in. I know there's a lot of talk about Miami on the show Tuesday night, and I get that they beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame is the other team that the SEC is going to get 5, which I think they will. They could use Notre Dame losing this weekend to Pitt, which I don't think will be an easy game for the Irish. But I just think those 3 teams, Texas, Oklahoma, and Vandy, one of those 3 is going to figure out a way to get in, which would give the SEC 5 teams.
Yeah, that's why they didn't sign the deal for 4 automatic.
Right.
Knowing that there could be a year where you get 5 or 6 teams in because they're so talented. And I think it helps Vandy, too, that they've got Diego Pavia, who is one of the most exciting players in college football. I mean, no doubt about it. I love watching the guy play. It was a tough win for Alabama when they faced him. And, if you want to have TV ratings, you want to have the guys on there that make it fun to watch. So we'll see what happens there. It's exciting, though, as you kind of get down the stretch to see how this thing's going to unfold. And then I guess that leads me to the Ole Miss question is, you hear Lane gets an extension at Ole Miss, right? So is Lane Kiffin staying there? You look at the Kalshi markets and they got, Lane still overwhelmingly the odds-on favorite to be the head coach at Florida. He's still, and I'll check it here in a second, the guy who has the biggest % chance to be at LSU, and now you're hearing his name for NFL jobs.
Good to be Lane Kiffin, right?
Yeah.
His metamorphosis, and this is not a secret to anybody around Tuscaloosa. Lane's talked about his metamorphosis from where he was in his life while he was at Alabama, 2014 and 15 on into the 16 season, has been stunning. And he's done a lot of the heavy lifting. He's made some things that happened just right for him. I think getting to Oxford was a help for him, and getting his, getting Landry back there first, his oldest daughter. Now Knox is back. Even his ex-wife Layla is back, and they're sort of co-parenting the kids there. And Ole Miss is, they've stepped up in a huge way to try to give him everything he needs to win at a high level, and he's done it. He's hired good coaches. Look at the guys on his staff that have coached the NFL, or guys who've been head coaches. Joe Judge was the head coach of the Giants.
Yep.
He's on his staff. Pete Golding, who was there in Alabama, has done a terrific job at getting Ole Miss to a point defensively where they don't have to score 45 points in a game. They paid a lot of money to bring transfers in. So there are a lot of reasons for him to stay at Ole Miss. And everybody asks me, what's he going to do? What do you think? My answer is always, I don't think Lane really knows. I think if you look at the way he's answered those questions the last week, to me that says 2 things. Number one, he did learn from that whole Auburn situation. That was a bad deal. He let it become a distraction. It became a distraction for his team. And they just sort of melted down the last part of the season. No, he's not. He does not want that to happen again. I think he's been very open with his team. Number 2, Lane's going to listen. His agents are listening. Why would you not? People say, well, why would he leave Ole Miss? Well, if you're Lane Kiffin, if I put myself in his shoes, and I've taken Ole Miss to heights they haven't been at in 50 or 60 years, and they've been good to me. We've proven we can win at a pretty high level. And then I've got, on top of that, 2 of the top, I don't know what, mix 6, 7, 8 jobs in America,
right,
who want me and would pay me anything they want. Why would you not at least listen? Why would you not weigh all 3 situations and say, all right, this is what I think is best for me and my career right now? I'll say this. I don't know that it ever gets better for Lane than it does right now. Maybe I'm wrong. But I don't know that you're ever going to have, a situation where you got your pick of 2 Rolls-Royce jobs, or to stay at a place that believed in you when nobody else did, and they've given you the resources to win and be a playoff caliber team. And again, I think that's why I say I don't think he really knows.
Right.
And I think he's trying his best to keep what's important. And as they say, I love the end of the movie. The movie itself's not great, but I love the speech at Any Given Sunday when Al Pacino talks about the 6 inches in front of your face.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
I think that's what Lane's doing right now, is he's trying to look at it 6 inches in front of his face.
All right. Well, here's the Kalshi markets that Lane Kiffin's involved in. No, I'm going to start with this one. 60% of the $229,000 plus that have been exchanged on the Florida Gators head coach have him by far the overwhelming favorite right now at 60%. Eli Drinkowitz at 16%, Jed Fish at 7%. But what's interesting is that he's still number 1 on the markets to be the next LSU coach at 30%. Now he's down 11 from being at 41%, but still John Summerall and Nick Saban. And a lot of people keep talking about Nick Saban. I saw something where Shaq was talking about. He heard that Nick Saban was talking to LSU people. We'll talk about that here in a second. But these are the other interesting ones. 9% chance, which isn't the top chance to be the New York Giants head coach. But when you look at it, they've got Lane Kiffin on the list, pretty far down there. But still, the New York Football Giants, he's got a 2% chance at Penn State, where people are putting money that, hey, maybe Penn State gets him. And here's Auburn with Lane Kiffin listed on there. At one point he was at like 6%. So when your name's popping up in this many jobs, like you said, it's a good spot to be in because you're highly coveted. But there just seems to be something between he and Florida. You mentioned it on a show before. What about Nick Saban? You and I both have said we don't think there's no chance that Nick Saban's getting back into this. He did mention all the money. Why are people believing that Nick Saban could possibly go to LSU? I mean, do you think talking means that something could be happening, or is this just a bunch of chatter?
I've been pretty consistent on this one, Mick. I mean, Nick will be everybody's white whale for the next year, 2,
He's 74
3.
too.
Yeah, and 75, isn't he? You may be right. I don't know, but whatever he is, he's probably 8, 9 years younger than what his age is in reality, because just what a machine he is. But no, I mean, I've been consistent with you, with everybody else. Nick Saban's not coming back to coaching, and I think there will always be chatter. There's going to be always teams and schools who will kick the tires on Nick. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But you're right. He's people say, well, why? Well, here's why. Nick Saban only knows how to do it one way. He's not going to become more of a CEO and have more people do things that he's done in the past.
Right.
Less hands off, going 100 miles an hour every single day, recruiting, evaluating, coaching, developing. And I don't know that his mind, in fact, he told me this when he retired, that he feels like he's capable of doing that anymore, of doing the job justice the way he wants to do it. And that's the number one reason. And I think the number two, probably really close to that, is he enjoys his life right now.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Terry enjoys their life. They do things and go places and get to actually enjoy some of their places they have down in Jupiter and they're in Georgia on the lake. And he's, things he's never been able to do in his life at a time when he promised her. And he told me again that he promised Terry that he would get out of coaching before it was too late so they could do some of these things.
Right.
And that's what they're doing. And I know everybody's going to talk about it. I get it. I think Down Deep, he probably gets it. I talked to him about a week ago, and I can promise you, my conversation with him, coaching is the last thing on his mind right now. He's good at TV. He likes doing TV, and he likes his life. But I go back to my first point is, some people, whatever job they're in, they sort of evolve, they scale back, they hire people. Maybe it's a guy who's got a couple of sons. He lets his sons more or less run the company when he gets to a certain age.
Like Auburn basketball.
Yeah, and that ain't the way Nick's wired. He's just not wired that way.
Yep.
And that's the main reason is he knows at this point in his life and his career, he wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, Chris, always great to talk to you. I love this segment every week. And I want everyone to know, and I get a lot of great compliments, whether it's here digitally or on the radio show, that people just love listening to you. Where can they read your work now that you're at On3, and what are you working on right now?
Yeah, you can just go to on3.com, and every week we've got a great team, and especially now with all the comings and goings and coaching carousel. I mean, Brett McMurphy and Pete Nako, Staples, Ari Washman, we're all over it. Josh Pate. So on3.com, I'll be going to Pittsburgh, to Steel City this weekend to see Notre Dame for the first time. It's important to me, Mick. I was telling you, I want to try to see as many of these teams live as I can. They're going to be in the playoff. I've seen 7 of the top 9. So Notre Dame will make it 8 of the top 10 that I would have seen live, spent some time in a lot of cases on campus talking to people and staff. And so we'll have something on Notre Dame, and it's certainly coming out of that game. And then we head toward that last weekend, man. I tell you, there's going to be an upset. I'm not a big predictions guy.
Right.
There will be a monumental upset somewhere.
Hopefully not in Tuscaloosa.
I'm not going to say it's going to be on the plains, but Mississippi State and Ole Miss play that last week.
It could be one. Yeah.
Right? How about this? Michigan and Ohio State in Ann Arbor that last weekend.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech play on Black Friday at the Mercedes-Benz. There's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of those types of games.
Yeah.
That I bet you there's going to be, Vandy, Tennessee. I don't know what that line will be. Something says Tennessee will be favored by a little bit at home. Mm-hmm. But there's just, when you look down the schedule, man, there's a lot of opportunity here for one of those types of upsets, and I bet we see one somewhere.
Yeah, Vanderbilt's been good in the past, and they've beat Tennessee in the past, but it's never been where I feel like both teams are good. This is the first time where I look at it, I go, both teams are good. Tennessee's a good team. They shoot themselves in the foot some. Vanderbilt's a good team, and, they've lost some games, but they've lost to really, really talented opponents on the road. That's going to be great. To have the Texas A&M game back, going to be great. So rivalry week, we'll be setting it up next week.
Yeah, maybe the best we've seen. This rivalry weekend might be the best we've seen in a long time, where there's so many games that have so many stakes, so many high stakes.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Chris, good luck to you, my friend. Travel safe to South Bend, Indiana, and we'll talk to you again next week. Guys, show's brought to you by Pearl River Resort, Philadelphia, Mississippi. The Azaleas, the Oaks, 2 amazing golf courses at Dancing Rabbit. Jay Coker and I will be there next week. We'll be there the entire week. We're putting together another commercial. So we get the star. Jake will get the star in that one, and maybe somebody else will be in this one a little bit more. Also, if you come to the show and you've made it all the way here to the end, and you're at the show on Friday, and you say Roll Tide, I got a hat for you. But you got to say it before they're all gone. So you got to come by, hey, I've watched the entire Chris Lowe interview, and Roll Tide, and I got a hat for you, or some sort of prize. But thank you, guys. Thank you, Chris. And again, here's Jay Coker.
I may not suit up on Saturdays anymore, but I'm still in the game.
Let's roll.
In here, I call the plays, make adjustments, and lay it on the line. Want to feel that fire, that rush? Then you've got to get in the game. I used to say it in the tunnel, and I still say it now. Let's roll.
Let's roll.
In some places, football is a sport. In Alabama, it's a fine art. New Life Art is now accepting pre-orders for Daniel A. Moore's next Crimson Classic, The Crispy Screen, guys. What a name to commemorate the Fat Boys. This masterwork commemorates the screen pass to Caden Proctor that outsmarted Kirby and the Georgia defense. Proctor's catching bulldog dozing run set up Ty Simpson's 3-yard touchdown just before the half, which was a big score for us, guys. Visit DanielMooreArt.com to see the artist's preliminary sketch and take advantage of a special pre-publication pricing for the crispy screen. Go ahead, get into that. Go get you one of those Caden Proctor prints. I'm super excited to get mine in because he's living a dream of all the Fat Boys. And go look up that crispy screen and get you one, guys.
We're presented by Bod Coach, and you can tell I'm slimming up over here, and it's because of Bod Coach. This is absolutely amazing. It's your personal trainer that is with you 24/7. So when I go to hotels or when I'm on the road, I type in, hey, look, I got equipment. This is what I have, and it'll make a workout specifically for me, what I want, what exercises I want. When I'm at home or I'm at a hotel and there's no way I can get to the gym, it'll say, hey, this is what I want to work on today, and it sends you personalized workout plans. It's really awesome. And they contacted me a few weeks ago to be a spokesman. I said, well, I want to try this. Bod Coach is fantastic. Like, I use it all the time. I mean, and if I'm telling you, man, like, it makes working out when you are on the go like me so much better. Just because I don't always know I didn't play football at Alabama. I didn't have Scott Cochran yelling, yeah, and telling me what workouts to do. So anyway, I'm going to put in the body on the YouTube all about Bod Coach. Get you guys signed up there, but tell them you heard it on Bama Tailgate.
Hey, guys, I also want to tell you about this. Residence Inn by Marriott Ocean City. My man Keith taking care of you, back-to-back coastal style hotel of the year right there on the coast of Maryland, the beautiful Ocean City, Maryland, and that is an amazing hotel. Steamed crabs, great seafood, awesome views, the boardwalk, Secrets Bar, so many different things right there in Ocean City. You got to check it out. It really is fantastic. And tell them Mick sent you.
When you head to the Smoky Mountains, it's only natural to visit Rivalry.
Even we had to check it out.
And we've been here our whole lives.
Experience the adventure of a lifetime.
I'm king of the world.
Even you can get a bird's eye view of the Smokies.
You're going down, Billy. Whoa.
Your Smokies start here.